Hello, I'm Avis Kalfsbeck, and this is the Peace is Here podcast. Welcome to Peacewarts, School of Peacecraft and Inquiry, where we practice the skills of peace through short classes. We take the peace work seriously, but not ourselves. If you're joining us mid-school year, you're not late. Orientation begins at episode 198. Welcome back, Peace Scholars. This is Chronicled Courage 101 in the Hall of Records, where we keep our eyes on the evidence. In this session, we look at one of the most famous and most misunderstood moments in the history of peace, known as the Christmas Truce. In December 1914, 5 months into World War I, the official maps drawn by the generals predicted total war. But in the mud of the Western Front, the people in the trenches performed a collective act of refusal. The thing is, we were all in the same state. We were all cold, we were all wet, we were all fed up. It didn't matter if you were a German or a Briton. Bertie Felstead, British soldier and survivor of the 1914 Christmas Truce. In this department, we call this horizontal peace. It is the moment when the vertical authority of command, the orders that demand killing, is overruled by the lateral reality of shared humanity. History. The Christmas truce was not a single coordinated miracle. It was a spontaneous, localized outbreak of competence that occurred in dozens of sectors across the front. The reality of proximity. To understand how this happened, we must look at the geography of the trenches. In many places, the enemy lines were only 30 to 100 yards apart. Soldiers could hear each other coughing, singing, and talking. They were sharing the same rain, the same cold, and the same misery. When you can hear the man you're supposed to hate shivering in the dark, the abstraction of the enemy begins to dissolve. Peace required this proximity. It required the repetition of hearing a human voice where you expected a target. The ritual as a communication protocol. On Christmas Eve, the silence was broken not by gunfire, but by song. We often treat the carols as decoration, but in the Department of Chronicled Courage, we recognize music as a low-risk communication protocol. When German soldiers placed candles on small trees and sang Stille Nacht, British soldiers recognized the melody of Silent Night. The music served as a signal. It lowered the perceived threat without requiring a formal meeting or a signed treaty. It was a way of saying, I am human and I am here. The shared ritual allowed the soldiers to test the air for peace without the risk of immediate betrayal. What actually happened? The truce was a series of concrete human exchanges. Soldiers from both sides stepped into the no man's land to perform the most basic acts of civilization. They jointly buried their dead, ensuring that no one was left in the mud. They exchanged cigarettes, buttons, and photographs of their families. These men weren't being sentimental. They were being practical. They were choosing cooperation over fire, because in that moment the war map of the generals felt less real than the faces of the men standing in front of them. Thesis: the reaction of vertical authority. The reaction from the high command on both sides was one of immediate alarm. For a general, a soldier who talks to the enemy is a soldier who might refuse to kill them. Horizontal peace threatened the entire structure of vertical war. On December 29, 1914, German command issued strict orders that all fraternization was punishable as high treason. Simultaneously, British General Horace Smith Dorrien ordered his commanders to clamp down on friendly intercourse, insisting that the offensive spirit be restored. In some sectors, artillery bombardments were deliberately ordered on Christmas Day to reassert hostility and force the soldiers back into a state of fear. Many units involved in the truce were rotated out and replaced by hardened troops who hadn't yet seen the faces of the other side. The core lesson: faces versus abstractions. The Christmas Truce did not end the war, but it proved that war is a system imposed from above, not a natural state from below. Peace was possible the moment the soldiers refused to see the war map and started seeing the person. This story is often minimized or turned into a fable because the reality is too dangerous for the narrative of inevitable war. It exposes the fact that war depends on vertical separation and abstraction. Peace emerges when people encounter each other horizontally. Maps and orders collapse in the presence of voices and shared needs. Your homework. 1. Look up the letters of soldiers from the 1914 Christmas Truce and find one description of a conversation between a British and German soldier. 2. Write down one question about any of this episode's topics. If you don't have a question, just write "no question." 3. Optional, journal. Think about a situation in your life where you've been told to see someone as an opponent or an enemy. How much of that is based on a war map given to you by someone else? What would happen if you ignored the map and looked at the horizontal reality of that person's life? The ink of the future. In the Department of Chronicled Courage, we remember the lesson of 1914. The living architecture of peace is not just something we study in ancient treaties or grand halls. It is something we build every time we choose to see a face instead of an abstraction. Until next class, keep your eyes on the evidence. Class dismissed. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the Pieces Here podcast, the most helpful way is to follow it wherever you're listening. It helps share the message with others. You can also support this piecework at my Patreon for $4 a month, about what a used paperback goes for these days. Just go to Patreon at patreon.com/Avis Kalfsbeck. That's AVISKALFSBEEK. My most recent book is Mana Mutante, a best friend eco-fiction novella about food systems, featuring Tilly, Camas, Pedro, and the rest of the gang. It's book 6 in the Pedro the Water Dog Saves the Planet series and is available wherever you buy books. You can find all of my peace projects and stay in touch at aviskalfsbeck.com. Music is by Javier Peque Rodriguez. Sound effects are from Pixabay. Regarding peace, we need not delay or despair. We are not late. We are right on time to love. We are all scholars of peace. Listen for the peace.